Okay, this is going to need some serious concentration on my part to try and find her in this particular area. Let's go and see Tristan, who's exploring the east for the first time in days.
Well, we're on our way towards Cheetah Plains. We're just taking a slow drive that way and enjoying the beautiful sunlight. Our elephants went south into Little Gowrie, and so now we're going to carry on and see what else we can find. Hopefully there will be a surprise waiting on Cheetah Plains. I don't think anyone's actually been there in the last 2 days. I spoke to one of the guys from Cheetah Plains, and no one's actually been onto the Cheetah Plains area for the last 2 days. They've all been coming north looking for lions, and so maybe, just maybe, we might get lucky with something very cool there. So we're going to go and have a look around and see what we can find. But it is the most beautiful afternoon. There is this gold sunlight. It's a lovely temperature and perfect to be out in the African bush, that's for sure. And we had such a nice sighting with our elephants. They were so accommodating of our presence, and they were back and forward and lots of playing amongst the little ones. So really nice to see. And it's been a very good afternoon so far between Brent with all the diversity that the Mara has to offer, and I'm a little bit jealous actually at all the stuff that he's seeing there. It sounds like it's absolutely incredible. So I'm hoping that lots more will come towards the Safari Live team when they all head up there, and I'm sure we're going to get some crazy things happening in the Mara. Now hopefully we'll be able to rival the Mara this afternoon and maybe find the cheetah, and I know Brent will be a little bit jealous if we do. He's loving the fact that he's seeing cheetah as regular as he does. Now we're going to go through a little bad patch of signal as we go past Cheetah Plains Lodge, and so while we do that, let's go across to James and hear what he has to say about his wanderings through the Golden Bush.
I have this to say about my wandering through the Golden Bush. It is gold and I'm wandering. Yes, good. Now, we saw that spider a little bit earlier, and the spider a little bit earlier was making its web between the awns of this, the giant 3-awn, but it was on the ground. And I just think this is amazing. It had basically somehow managed to find 2 awns from this plant that had fallen together, and it had strung the silk between the 2 awns, and it was so light that it didn't bend them. You can see I'm hardly touching it, and it bends. That spider's mass had absolutely no effect on the astounding little 3-awn, and how actually it's very strong. Now I said the seed was at the bottom. There you can see the seed. You see the seed there, Craig? Do you see it? It's a little white cap. Okay. It's got hairs on it. Probably look better under the microscope, wouldn't it? Probably. Yes. Anyway, we don't have a microscope with us. Then Craig said to me, and I was shocked by this, of course, because he thought to question me. And so I had to sit down for a little while. But then I managed to recover and stood up. And he said, wasn't it a normal 3-awn that it was on? And so I said to him, Craig, there are many different kinds of 3-awn. There are not just 2. Here is one right here. And this is one of the Aristida or 3-awn species. But you can see, Craig, this is for your edification, because I wish to bore our viewers to death. But this one... Oh no, hang on 1 second. I've now been nasty to Craig, you see, so karma is coming to bite me. Wait. That's such a nice example. Oh, come on, Hendry. 1 second. Yeah. No? But what I'm trying to show you is that the awns are exactly the same shape. They're just much smaller. And most of the awns from this one have actually been scattered to the wind already. How putrid. Irritating. I'm going to try one more, because I know that all of you are desperate. Here we go. I know you're all desperate to see the 3-awn. There you are. See, Craig? There are the seeds of the 3-awn. You see they are much smaller. Smaller than the one that the spider made its web in.
Much more,
Yes, good. I'm glad that we've sorted that out between us. I felt it was going to threaten our relationship. Good, on we go. Let's continue through the bush. As Jamie said, we've given up on Shadow. She's headed into Arathusa. Hopefully Jamie will have some luck. The reason we sent her scuttling in there is that there were some batelia that came, sort of two of them that came circling around and dropped down to the ground, which is indicative of there being perhaps some sort of meat around the place. So perhaps Shadow has successfully killed something, and perhaps she is going to take her little baby cub towards it. And I'm very pleased to say that the tracks of the little baby cub are there, which means that it is still alive, and it is now, yeah, I mean, just about 6 months old, which is not bad for her. Good. Now Jamie is over there, far to the west on Arathusa. Let's go and find out if she's found any tracks or had any word on the radio.
I haven't found any tracks yet, but that's not saying much because the road in front of me is very rocky and very hard, and a leopard actually wouldn't leave a track on this unless you are one of those heroic trackers that have spent their entire lives dedicated to that, in which case they can somehow see by the shift of a stone that a leopard walked past. It's almost impossible. And this road's also been driven this afternoon, judging by the vehicle tracks. Not too worried about that, though. Hold on. No, that's not anything exciting. It's a trick of the light. I think it goes without saying that this area is unbelievably thick. But it's an area that Shadow used to love. Whenever we found Shadow with Sindile, she was either in that corner where we tracked her to earlier, or she was in these drainage lines. And I'm hoping she's going to be hanging around those sorts of areas. And maybe we'll get lucky and we'll find a drag mark or something. That's what I'm hoping for. Hello to Ellie once again. Ellie, you want to know if leopards travel long distances away from home? Leopards' home is their territory that they actively defend. So they'll travel within that territory on basically a daily basis, both to mark the territorial boundaries and to and to find food in there. So they do actually cover enormous distances. The distance that they travel will depend upon the size of their territory. A male leopard's territory is going to be bigger than a female's. Then, when you've got young leopard cubs, most of the time, but not always, the female will stay close to mum's territory and she'll set herself up there, establish herself there. And the males could ultimately end up dispersing hundreds of kilometers. Not quite as far, though, as all the way to Brent in Kenya.
Well, from elephants with Tristan a little earlier in South Africa, we now bring you a lovely big herd of elephants live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. And very big herd. There's some wonderful little tiny babies in this herd, and hopefully they're going to see them shortly. Oh, there's one. I think the smallest one is up to the left there, Dave, about to come out into the open. There it is. Tiny little one. Now, one of the things that I love about the Mara is that when you pull out and you come wide, you just get some of the most spectacular scenery. Look at that. Even in the difficult light and the sun almost on us, it is just, sorry Dave, spectacular. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions. And there are around 3,000 elephants in this area. And well, we've got a good 30 of them now, right here with us. Nice, very relaxed group of Ellies, just slowly heading off into the long grass. Now that long grass is home to the North clan of hyenas, who are the biggest clan in this area close to us. And They literally pop out of everywhere. So it's always fun to watch Ellies in this area, because sometimes they might chase a hyena just for fun. How many we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20, and another, oh, good 10, 12 behind us still coming. So a big herd. Now, when the migration arrives, these elephants head up into those hills you can see in the background, and they'd basically try avoid the pandemonium that the Great Migration brings. Oh, there we go. Perfect timing. You hear that. Ali was wondering, are the elephants communicating when they're trumpeting? Most definitely, and there's been some really interesting research done on elephant communication recently, and different trumpets mean different things. That was a sort of, I'm slightly annoyed with you trumpet, I would say, from an adult to a sub-adult, and some of the most aggressive sounds we hear from elephants are actually mothers trying to wean their offspring, and sort of tough love, stern words and whatnot. But even there's almost a particular, let's go, let's stay, let's fight, rumbles. There we go, hyena. That's what I said. Where's he gone? There it is. So I said this is the North Clan. He's getting out of there before the elephants get too close to him. So I said the hyenas pop out of this grass in this area, and I've seen plenty pop out around here. Hi, Shelley. Well, Shelley's wondering, will the elephants in the Masai Mara ever make it all the way down to Kruger National Park? I'm afraid not, Shelley. It is way too far. These are two very distinct populations of elephants. Not to say that it's impossible. If an elephant wanted to, it could walk that far, but they have no reason to. And you'll notice quite. Oh, look at this guy. I'm charging through, little one. Sweetness. Get left behind. Don't get left behind. I love little Ellies. They are just so much fun. So Shelley, no, these elephants will not pass through into the Kruger. Now, as I was saying, they really love grass, and if they have a choice, they'll eat grass over trees. And when the migration comes, and of course the pandemonium and noise that just over 1.5 million animals creates, the elephants don't really like that, and they'll move up into the hills, into the escarpment, into the forests to get away from the Great Migration. There will still be the odd bull and whatnot around, or maybe even the odd breeding herd around the river, but they will try avoid that great mass of animals that is the Great Migration. They just keep coming. Hi, Monique in London. Monique's wondering, do the elephants here seem more round? Are they more fat, or is it just her? And she says they seem to look like swollen ticks. I'd say probably at this time of the year they are probably a bit fatter than what we used to in South Africa. Oh, sorry, there's lots of flies around, and the reason for that is that they've got this incredible lush Thermida grassland to feed on, so they're getting a lot more nutrients out of a lot less food. So the high starch grasses that they're feeding on is providing them with a lot more food, and that could make them look a little bit fatter at the moment. But come dry season, I think they will look. Oh, here comes a big bull. There we go. You can see the other game drive vehicles. Hello, big boy. Following the ladies. Now, elephants for me are always quite magical, but I've got something in store for you. Actually, I should say James has got something in store for you. He's got real magic beans.
Real magic beans, everybody, and were I to plant them now, there is no question that they would grow into an enormous millie stalk, or maize stalk, on top of which would be living an enormous giant. Do you remember the name of the giant in, I can never remember his name, in Jack and the Beanstalk? Do you remember his name? No? Oh well, there will be a giant on top there. But because this is an African lucky bean, of course, it would be, well, it would be a Shangaan giant, probably. And he would see, what would he say? He would say, "Fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of Jafumbi's son." Obviously. Right, these things actually have a really wonderful Shangaan name. They're called Matitlo Mavaloi. Matitlo Mavaloi, which means the eyes of the witch doctor. I think that's a wonderful name. And why they're called that is that if eating these things will definitely result in you either dying or hallucinating horribly. And I, naturally enough, have forgotten the name of the poison that's in it. If I'm not mistaken, it might be a fairly lethal dose of datura, which is a pretty bad poison. But anyway, you don't want to be eating these things. And as Steph has many times pointed out to you on his little survival tips, you do not want to be eating anything red, black, orange out here. It's normally a warning nature is giving you to leave whatever that is quite alone. And in this case, it will make you very sick, hallucinate, and possibly die. Of course, planting them will result in an enormous maize stalk, on top of which will be the giant who says, "Fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of Jafumbi's son." Very good. And you can see that it is a creeper. It's not the tree, obviously. That this tree is well, there are two trees here, actually. Yeah, there are two kinds of trees. But the tree... Are there two kinds of trees? Oh, no, they're not. This is very interesting. Oh, wow. Okay, so what we have here, this is one kind of tree, and it's a sickle bush tree, or Chinese lantern. Makes beautiful, delicious-smelling flowers that unsurprisingly look like Chinese lanterns. They're pink and they're yellow, but obviously not this time of year. But the leaves here, which look like acacia leaves, are the leaves of the creeper. It's wonderful. So this is the creeper here. I'm just going to show you that it's not part of the tree. Kay, you say Lundavor is the name of the giant. I don't remember that. Thank you for that, Kay. Blunderbore. Well, whatever the Shangaan equivalent of Blunderbore is. There we go. So that's what the creeper looks like. You can see this one's had a particularly good year. I don't think it will strangle the tree. I think it will be fine. Shelley, your question has made me think of some sort of wild, nefarious party that them animals might be throwing out here. You say, would the animals ingesting this also hallucinate and become ill? I don't know. I imagine so. I mean, some animals would depend on their digestive systems, of course. Remember, kudu and elephant and black rhino can eat things that we can't and make us desperately ill and might actually kill us. But I'm not sure about these magic beans. I'm not sure, but the image of a whole lot of kudu and impala leaping around in a circle here in some kind of hallucinogenic frenzy is rather amusing, especially as, of course, we are into the business end of the impala rut. Maybe they'll come past here. Let's carry on. Not talk about that anymore. We had a snake up here as well that Rexon found. Unfortunately, it took fright when it saw him and went underneath a log. And Craig, who is really getting quite uppity these days, said, "Why don't you just lift the log?" Until I pointed out that it happened to be attached to something akin to a 3-ton tree that had fallen over. At which point he looked relatively sorry for himself, but frankly not nearly sorry enough. Ooh, here's a pretty flower. Now, we've done this before, obviously, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it could be one of the Trophrosia species, or a, what are the other ones? Oh, come on, James. Trophrosia, or the other ones that are related to the sweet peas, but are not the sweet peas. It will come to me at some stage. Anyway, it's very beautiful, and unfortunately, it looks like a little orchid, doesn't it? It isn't an orchid, and you can see it's got little bean-like pods. Oh no, that's the leaf, but it does have bean-like pods, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually edible, which is quite nice. Well, if they're around, then it's quite nice. If they aren't around, then it's just a disappointment, because you might be hungry, and now you're going to remain hungry. On we go. Rex, has your snake come out? Not. Alright, on that note, I think we should head all the way to the very far east. Follow my stick, everybody. You are about to go onto the plains of the... no, not the Mara, but the Cheetah.
Well, indeed, we're all the way in the far east of Cheetah Plains and not in the far east of Africa, up in the Mara, and it's beautiful out here this afternoon. There's golden light sort of touching everywhere on this white grass, and it's just so pretty out here. And we've got a few impalas off to our left, a couple zebras, so no signs of the cheetah brothers or any other sort of predator, but at least we have some of the plains game that enjoy these open sections. So you can see our cheetah just in the distance there, so they're busy taking refuge from the sun at this stage. They're in the shade, and it seems to be the same herd I had a few days ago that's been spending time here, which probably suggests that the cheetah brothers actually haven't come through anytime soon, because they might have had a go at the baby zebra that is amongst them. There is one little baby there, although zebras are very, very feisty when it comes to protecting their babies, in particular with things like cheetah, so they'll often try and chase cheetah off. So it's not necessarily the case that they haven't come through, but generally when you see a herd being here for a few days at a time, you would imagine that the cheetah haven't actually come through at all. So I'm sure any day now we can expect them to arrive again. It's normally sort of every week or so there's some report of them passing through. You might not see them, but tracks or some sort of sign that they were around. You can see the little baby's almost not visible in this long grass, so you can imagine also if there were cheetah here and they were lying down, how difficult it can be to spot them. If a baby zebra like that is not visible standing up, a cat lying down flat is going to be almost impossible to see in this long grass. But there's just something about being on Cheetah Plains at this time of the day with the sort of sun and the openness of it all. It really is very pleasant indeed. And very peaceful. You can hear it seriously quiet out here. Since the monotonous larks have left, it's become very, very quiet indeed. There's our impala males. And everybody looks very peaceful this afternoon. Nobody's looking too stressed at all. Everyone's taking it very easy. Right, now we're going to go up towards Buff Pan and check if we can't find some spots of our own. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is still on the search for the elusive shadow cat.
I am. I'm looking for shadow tracks absolutely everywhere. I've searched all of her favorite spots, but she could so easily be hiding in all of these river systems. Let me check something quickly. I think it's a hyena, but let me just check. Not an actual hyena. Footprints of a hyena. It is footprints of a hyena. Okay. The last tracks I had of shadow were over there, coming in this direction. And if I know leopards if we know leopards like we think we know leopards, they usually like to hang around these sorts of areas because there's lots of creatures like kudu and inyala and bushbuck that they can sneak up upon. And of course it's also very convenient because there's plenty of places to hide a kill. And Shadow typically doesn't hoist her kills. But what she does do, she does occasionally, but what she usually does is tucks them into a thicket or underneath a bush somewhere to make them hard to find. I think this is still this hyena walking along the road. It is this hyena walking along the road. And that makes life difficult, but it's okay. It makes life difficult for her as well, because what I mean by the fact that she doesn't hoist is that she doesn't put her kills up in trees. And I'm checking very carefully here, because this is the sandiest patch of road we've encountered. She doesn't put her kills in trees all that frequently, which means that she quite regularly loses them to hyenas. Yes, occasionally, absolutely, we have seen her with a kill in a tree, but I would say that that's been the exception rather than the rule. I don't know why that is. I'm not sure. Yes, now I can see the hyena tracks clearly. I'm not sure why. None of us are really sure why it is that Shadow doesn't hoist as frequently as the other leopards that we see. Unfortunately for poor Shadow, her poor hoisting record is also potentially responsible for, or partially responsible for, her very, very bad luck in terms of raising cubs. And Bonnie, you want to know how many cubs a Shadow had? We don't know exactly how many sets of cubs Shadow has had. The only cub that has survived to adulthood that we know of, and I doubt that there are any secrets that we don't know of, is Sindile. And Sindile he spent 8 months of his life in captivity, because he was the one that caught that domestic or feral dog that turned out to be rabid. And obviously Sindile had to be taken out of the reserve, given a whole load of vaccinations. I swear I just saw a kudu go in here. So poor Sindile spent 8 months of his life in captivity when he was just about a year, or just over a year old. And he was released back into this area at around 2. And he's done very well. He's succeeded and he has survived. And as far as we know, he's still fine. He's just wandering about somewhere, as young male leopards do. Then she had a set of cubs after that. They unfortunately didn't survive. And now she's got this little one. There were 2 of them, there's now unfortunately only 1. We don't know why it is that happens to Shadow, but it's just one of those things. Right, let's go over to James so that I can concentrate on this leopard, and he can entertain you with some spider webs.
It is now that time of the day when the sun is making its inexorable sink down to the western horizon. And we have found here, a thorn in my hand. Okay. We found a patch of grasses here on which the seeds have all been blown off. So here is Digitaria eriantha, a very good grazing grass, except when it gets to this stage, and you can see the seeds have been blown off. There are a few spider webs hanging on there, sort of the last of the summer spiders, and all around here are signs of the coming winter. I'm always not sure at this time of the year whether to say we're in winter or whether we're just sort of in early winter or late autumn, but we're at the change of the season. It's pretty much winter. Here is, what's it called? It's actually one of the Eragrosta species. They've lost all of their seeds. You can see some of these Chlorus species. All of those seeds have been cast to the wind, and all around me, in amongst the grass here, the seeds have fallen. They're either in the seed bed down below, or they've flown off in the wind. And it's such a sort of stark reminder of this cliched but very wonderful circle of life that's going on here. These grasses, many of them will die during the course of the winter. Some of them are perennial and they'll come up again. Some of them will die, and they will live on in their offspring that will come up out of the seed bed sometime during the next rains. And I just think it's quite a nice thought out here at this time of the year. Another one here, this is what spiked me. That there is the hare's tail, and it seems to have matured quite late compared with many of the other flowers. And when it starts out, I've got another one in my hand. When it starts out, it doesn't have these lovely blood red spikes on them. Maybe they're blood red because they've been spiking people, I'm not sure. but they're just plain white. And now, as we come to the end of the season, they are turning blood red and dropping down, and they of course are not cast to the wind. Well, no, in fact, sorry, I'm talking rubbish. They are, and those blood red thorns are not actually attached to the seeds. So often thorns like that would be attached to the seeds, and those seeds would then stick onto a passerby and be sort of delivered that way. But these ones don't seem to be. I think that these ones are extra to the spikes, and I think they go with the wind as well. That's why they have a sort of cotton wool covering on them. But they are viciously sharp and very unpleasant to have in your hand. Yeah, there's the seeds in there somewhere. I'm not so sure about that one. Excuse me, everyone. There was a fly biting me. Good, I seem to be being attacked by nature here, despite my describing it in the best and most flowery language I'm able to. It's very unfortunate. There's also a giant baboon spider's hole here, which is just magnificent, and I'd quite like to try and pull him out, but we're not allowed to do that anymore. John, you want to know what my favourite thing about bushwalk is? It really does depend on whether or not we see things or we don't see things. So we have hardly seen a huge amount on this bushwalk, but I've had a wonderful time just sort of smelling and interacting and touching and feeling the bush. But I think my favourite times on bushwalk are definitely when I'm with elephants or something like that, or with a predator who's not running away or reacting aggressively. So we've had wonderful sightings of those 2 little leopard cubs of ours from Gila and Hosanna on foot. We have wonderful sightings of wild dogs on foot. And elephants on foot is always a very special and humbling experience. And I was hoping, once we'd seen tracks of shadow heading off into Arathusa, I was hoping rather that we would be able to find some elephants, but I see the sun has now almost touched the horizon, so I think the chances of that before we have to shut down are quite small. But we'll do our level best as we go. We have, I don't know, about half a kilometre to walk back to our vehicle that we left waiting for us. And so if we find any elephants, I shall tell you immediately. In the meantime, we're going to head off into that setting sun, the opposite from the way we went last time, to Jamie, who is still looking for Shadzi.
I'm still looking for shadow as the shadows grow longer. I don't know where to check now. I think maybe this way. One last quick loop and then we're going to go back to Tingana because it's getting dark. It's getting very difficult to see. And I think we'll have to try again tomorrow. It's just little old me wandering around here as well, which is also quite tricky. Oh, we were talking about shadow. One of the things that I think unfortunately contributes to her lack of success as a mother, and I mean it really, as much as it's hard to, we always talk about the fact that she has been incredibly unlucky, but it's quite clear if you compare her to Karula and Karula's success rate in terms of raising cubs and Shadow's success rate, there's a vast difference. It's not like there's a slight difference, there is a vast difference. And one of the reasons I suspect, I know Tristan has put forward the theory about her being sort of right in the corner of several big dominant male leopard territories. I think she goes into estrus too soon. I think she's ready to have cubs before her cubs are ready to be left alone for that period of time. And her instinct drives her to go and find a male and to spend 5 to 7 days with him. And that's a long time because she often leaves her cubs when they are very, very tiny. And I think that's probably one of the reasons behind Shadow's unlucky moments. Okay. Where to next? Where should we go, Fergus? Where are we going to find this leopard? I don't know. I think she's watching us watch the sunset. That's a very good point. Right, we're going to send you across to Tristan, who hopefully is having more luck on Cheetah Plains.
Well, we haven't had any luck yet, but I have seen some tracks for what looks like the two cheetah brothers. It's very difficult. Where we are here is quite rocky and the light is almost gone, so I'm struggling to see them, but it does look very cheetah-ish, and so I'm trying to see if I can't find a clearer track somewhere and see if maybe these cheetah are indeed on the Cheetah Plains area. If so, the tracks are heading in this way, but it was difficult to see because, like I say, it's just kind of toes and I can't see the lobes nicely to see if it's actually a hyena or the cheetah. It's quite an elongated track, and now where it gets a little bit more sandy, I should be able to see a lot better. But what we do have is a francolin that's decided it's going to just sit in the middle of the road. So we have a Swainson's spur file. Actually, it used to be a francolin. Oh, there we go, catch up quickly. And that's a little young one. You can see both of them are fairly young. And you can see the red is just starting to come through on their face, which is an indication of them being Swainson's spur files. And they love these open sections, lots of them in this area. So those of you who keep your bird lists, it is quite a common one, but maybe some of you have just started your bird list, and that will be a new one that you can add to it. Now, francolins are not the cleverest birds, and so because I'm on a bit of a mission, because the light is going, and if we do find these cheetah, it's getting a bit dark for them, so I want to try and just see if I can't find them. So I do apologize, francolins. I'm sorry if I'm pushing you out of your road. I really do feel very bad. I'm sorry. It's so difficult to see these tracks. Hoping. So, Janja, you're wondering if certain animals out here get medical care from the vet teams that we have, the state vets and the varying other vets that are around. Well, no, not if they are injured by another animal. So if it's anything that is natural, let's say they fell in a hole and a ditch and they damaged their leg, or they got bitten by a lion and they've got a piece of meat hanging off, then no, we don't help them, because that's all natural. Had we been here, we would have still, had we not been here, it still would have happened, and those animals still would have unfortunately gotten hurt. So instead we just, we leave them and we let nature take its course, and the strongest bloodlines will then survive. In saying that though, people often are influencing a lot of what's going on. So if we see any animals that have wire around them, that for some reason have a bullet wound, if they've wandered into an area that they shouldn't have and somebody shot at them, or any sort of situation like that, then yes, we will intervene and we will try and help that animal. Then there's the kind of grey area, which is all the animals that are highly endangered, that we really can't afford to lose too many, and they are the animals that we try and kind of have to judge. And so things like cheetah, wild dog, rhinos, now that they've been poached to the way that they are, these are all animals that we really kind of have to be a bit careful of, and so we try our best to try and sort of help where we can if it is an injury that is potentially life-threatening. But even then it then becomes a subjective thing as to whether or not the vet thinks they can survive without our aid. But we try and just keep a blanket rule that we do not help these animals unless it's been human caused. Now, I don't see any further signs, but we are coming up to an area where it does get a little bit more sandy, and I should be able to see a bit better what's going on. Somehow in my mind I keep just thinking that it must have been a hyena track, because I can't see any further, but it was just very long, which is what's kind of playing on my mind. But unfortunately this is not the best area. Had they crossed on the road to our west, that road is very sandy and would have been very easy to see what's going on. This road, not so much. Now, if they're not on this section here, I'm going to do a loop around to another big open area that's to my western side, and just check if there's no sign of those tracks that side. And it could also be hyenas, because we have seen quite a few hyenas moving up and down in this area of late, so it could be them. And I might just be getting all excited for nothing, because I really want to see those two cheetah brothers again. But we are coming to Buff Pan, and Buff Pan has got to be one of the most beautiful water holes we have in our whole traverse. I really love it here. It's quiet, It's sort of secluded, out of the way. Very seldom is anybody ever here. It's got these beautiful big leadwood trees all on the peripheries and in the water. So you can see here, it is just very, very picturesque. As you come around the corner, you kind of get all these big trees and this waterhole that's just secluded in amongst them. It's very nice. And because no one really checks around here, there's often little things lurking that you sometimes wouldn't see otherwise. So we know that Vatumi, Nkanyeni, Quarantine, they often come to this area and we don't even know about it. So it's always worth coming past here and just having a little look. The other thing that likes this area is big herds of buffalo, so always worth checking here for them as well. It often smells like buffalo when you come past here because the herds come and drink and then go back into the Kruger Park area. Sorry, Franklins. This is a different type of species of franklin that's running on the road. It's just ducked off. That was a Natal franklin that ran there. Where are you? Cats? Sure. Seems like the elephants have done a bit of damage here. If we look on the right, you can see all the debris from them and then the size of the actual branch that they broke off. Look at how big that is. That is serious damage. So this has been done in the last few days because it wasn't like this when I last came past here, which was probably about 4 days ago. So lots and lots of damage by the Ellies, which means they've been around. Sorry, we've got a branch hanging over, so Seb's just warning me with the antenna. Now, while we try and negotiate this and get round this area, let's go across to James.
Negotiating the area, well, it can be difficult. What we're doing here is just a sort of last view of the night coming up over the eastern horizon. That's the direction from which Tristan has come. And I found a whole pile of dung. And this dung, of course, comes from the scrub hare. It is white, characteristically so. And I wondered if there wasn't around here perhaps a scrub hare form. Now, the form is a little sort of hollow vegetation that they make around an area like this, and it would probably be under this tree. And something like in there. You see in there? That's where you might find a scrub hare. And they're about to come out, of course, because it's about to be dark. And I just wondered if we didn't do a little swing around here, if we wouldn't have a scrub hare scuttling out. And they will let you get virtually on top of them before they run. And I don't know how many of you have watched those shots of the wild dog hunts from the air, but the number of scrub hares that they have caught just by running randomly through the bush and flushing them is quite astonishing, which means that we're driving past them and walking past them all the time. No scrub hares. Something has been lying in here, but I don't think it was a scrub hare unless it was a monstrously sized one, and I don't really want to find it. Ah, here is a spider. Look over here. Behold. This is an old garden orb web spider's web, and it looks to have been abandoned. Now, there are interesting reasons for this. There are still the dewdrop spiders that you can see there. Got that one, Craig? Yeah. And those dewdrop spiders, of course, the kleptoparasites of the natural world. I think there's also different kinds of dewdrops. Yes, they are. But where is Madame Garden Orb Web Spider? My suspicion is that she has been captured and carried off by a spider hunting wasp. And I say that because the other day we found a garden orb web spider paralyzed right next to a wasp that abandoned it because we came by. I hope that she went back and took it, and the paralysis and sacrifice of the garden orb web spider wasn't in vain. But the broken part of the web here indicates to me that she was kidnapped and taken away, and that these dewdrop spiders are still hanging around here trying to sort of parasitize what was left on the web, but unfortunately they're going to have to find someone else to feed them now, because Mrs. Garden Orb Web has gone away. such are the trials of the wilderness. Good. Right, we're now going to go across to a school drive. You, of course, are going to join the school drive. We're going to go home because it's a bit dark. And so until tomorrow, from Craig and myself, goodbye.
Hello and welcome to the 3 schools joining us this evening. So to Garrisonville, Lisbon Community and Diamond Springs, all schools that are joining us. I hope you kids are super excited because we are out here in the African bush and we're going to show you some really truly amazing animals. And although it is for you, it's the morning, out here it's evening time. And look over there, there's one of the amazing creatures that I told you that we're going to see. It's an antelope, and it's an antelope that's making a very funny noise and displaying, and all in all, drawing a lot of attention to himself. So although it is early for you, or early-ish for you, it is actually quite late here, and that is the perfect time to go off in search of different creatures. What you doing, Impala? So we've got our first one, tick, and that's probably going to be the most common animal that we see out here. We see lots and lots of Impala. Sophia, you want to know what animals will we see? Sophia, I'm actually racing somewhere as we speak because I've got a very special surprise. Hopefully a surprise. He's a wild animal, so he might have decided to move, but earlier on we were with a leopard. Because it's night time, we can see all of the daytime animals, but there's the possibility of things like lions, there's the possibility of an elephant, a leopard, a hyena. We could show you certain bird species, maybe an owl or 2, and if you're really lucky, and if we're really concentrating, we might even find a chameleon. Conley, you want to know? Sorry, Chantal, can you just repeat that question? Conley, you want to know, are the animals predators? Some of them are predators. The one that you were looking at earlier is definitely not a predator. He only eats grass and leaves. But there are predators out here. We get leopards, that's an example of a predator, a lion. A predator is something that hunts other animals for food. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a mammal. So it doesn't have to be a leopard or a lion. It could be a bird, like an owl, searching for small rodents. It could be anything like that. So not all of the animals are predators, but some of them are. And we're off in search of one of the biggest predators that we get out here. So while I get us across to that particular creature, remember I said you might see some birds, and I think Tristan has found some.
Well, we have indeed, Jamie. We found some of the nighttime birds that are just starting to come out. These are called bronze-winged coursers, and they are beautiful birds. They run along the roads like this, and like I say, they come out at night. During the day, they'll spend their time hiding away, and at night they know that lots of insects are out and about, and so that's what they're looking for. Now, before I forget, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Sebastian, and a very warm welcome to all the schools that have joined us. I hope you're going to have a wonderful time this afternoon with us, and I hope that we're going to be able to show you lots of exciting things. I know Jamie's looking for a leopard, and we're looking for any signs of cheetah or elephants, so hopefully we'll be able to find some for you, and we'll be able to show you all the wondrous things that we have out here in South Africa. Now, our birds seem to have run away, so we're going to carry on and see what else we can find. We're going to head to a waterhole now, and waterholes are the best places at this time of the day to look for not only predators, but also looking for any sort of signs of elephants. They like to come and have a drink at this time of the day, so we're going to go and try and see Now, I just heard on the radio that somebody said that they heard a sound for a leopard not too far away. So I'm going to try and go to that waterhole, and then I'm going to sit and listen, because out here in the bush you can't only use your eyes, you have to use your ears and your noses too to be able to smell and hear what's going on. And so I'm going to stop and listen and see if I can't hear that leopard making some noise, or if there's some sort of animal like the impala that Jamie had that is going to spot the leopard and start alarm calling and making sounds that it's seen the leopard, to warn everybody that it's seen it, and we can use it to find it. So Liam, you wonder if I like being a guide? Well Liam, it's the best job in the whole world. I get to drive around every day in these beautiful places and get to see all the wonderful animals and birds and insects and spend all my time out in the sun. So I love being a guide. It really is such a nice thing to do, and I get to see so many amazing things and lots of animals that many people travel from all over the world to come and see. So I love my job, and I love to be able to talk to you guys and to teach you all about the wildlife that we have in this area. Now hopefully we're going to see something popping out. Now I've got to look very carefully for footprints, because when these animals move they'll sometimes use these roads to be able to walk along, and they leave behind a footprint, and it makes it much easier for us to find them. So when you're looking at this time of the night, it's always good just to check the road and make sure you don't see any of their tracks, and then we can track them down. Also, it's good when we're looking for leopards to look into the trees. We've got lots of big, beautiful trees all around us. There you go, Seb is showing you one of them. And those are great places for leopards to sit in. Leopards love trees. So if we hear a leopard or hear animals alarm calling, sometimes it's good to look in the tree and maybe we get lucky. Otherwise, it's been a beautiful afternoon. We had a nice sighting of elephants earlier. Madison, you're wondering if the guides are brave. Well, some more than others, and some are just being silly more than others. But you have to be a little bit brave to do this job, because sometimes we'll have a lion or a leopard and it will walk right past the car. And when I say right past, it will come just on my right hand side here, and we don't have any doors. So if I stop, you'll be able to see I can put my leg out. So there's my shoe, and sometimes the lions will walk where my finger is right past us. And so you've got to be a bit brave to be able to sit there very still and let the lion come past and hope that it doesn't eat you. So sometimes you've got to be a bit brave, and other times we even go on bushwalks, which means we go out into the bush on foot and we'll walk around, and you can bump into all of these animals on foot. And so you have to be a bit brave with that, because sometimes the elephants are around, or buffalo, and then they can be a little bit aggressive, and you have to make sure that you stand your ground, and if they're charging at you, that you try and hold your position and not run away, which is very, very tough to do. So some guys are very, very brave indeed. And even our cameramen too. So the guys on the back of the vehicle have to be brave, because we sometimes have big elephants standing right over us, and that can be a little bit nerve-wracking as well. Now, the other things that we're going to be looking for is also nocturnal animals. So Carly, you're wondering if we'll see zebra. Well, in the area that we're in now, maybe not. It's a very thick area. You can see lots of trees and lots of bushes, which the zebra don't like very much. But I'm going to try my very best to see if I can't find some zebra for you, Carly. I did see zebra a little bit earlier today, but they were quite far from where I am. So I'm going to try my best and see if I can't find some more zebras for you. Hopefully I'll get lucky and there'll be some zebras somewhere close by that I can then find. But we are also looking for any of the nocturnal animals that might lurk around, so things like genets and civets and bush babies and owls and all of those kind of things that start coming out at this time of the day. So Jamie, my friend, is still looking for the leopard, so let's go across to her and see if she's had any luck.
I have had some luck, and just wait here patiently, because we're in the perfect place. He's going to keep walking straight towards us. He's going to come and mark on this tree. Look, there he comes around the corner. There he is. Look at that. Beautiful male leopard, and he's going to walk right past the vehicle. Look here he comes. Right next to me. Look at that. Isn't he beautiful. So there we go. There's one of our predators of this reserve. And he is marching along. Look at the power of his muscles. He probably weighs, I would say, just under 200 pounds. Thanks, Lex. Okay, we're just going to turn around and we're going to catch up with him. I'm going to let another vehicle come past. Go ahead, Lex. Thanks. Cheers, guys. No luck. Okay, let's go quickly. So we're just going to turn around. Whee! You'll see there's another vehicle. Those are guests who've come to stay at the lodge, and they're enjoying this as well with us. So it's possible to come on holiday here and to get to see these magnificent animals. Now he's marching. Gosh, he's walking so quickly. I'm really hoping that before he disappears, you're going to get to hear him roar. Watch out there, Fergus. I don't want to sweep you off your seat. There's a big branch about to knock Fergus, the cameraman, off. I'm hoping he's going to roar for you, because what he's doing at the moment is he's actually marking his territory. So he's walking along. There we go. You can see him walking along there. He's walking along, and he's going to spray urine on the various trees and bushes and then scrape his feet. And that's his way of telling all of the other leopards in the area that this place is his. This is where he belongs. Now, Cameron, you want to know if he's hunting for prey. Yes, he might actually be feeling quite hungry, Cameron. And he might, if he sees something, he might decide to sneak up on it. But at the moment, what he's doing is, for now, he's focusing on marking his territory. And we've just got to hold on. Obviously, this is quite a thin patch of road, so we're just going to squeeze along. There we go. Walking along the road. Now, Naomi, you want to know why does he have spots? Well, Naomi, spots work really, really well to act as a camouflage. So when he's trying to hunt or when he's trying to hide away, then he'll go in between the trees or the grass, and those spots basically act like some kind of invisibility cloak. So they basically hide him away. And I promise you, if you ever see a leopard in very dense vegetation, hidden behind the trees, they are next to invisible. So that's why the leopard has spots. It's for camouflage. Oh, and I can smell, this is going to sound so funny, but do you know what leopard wee smells like? Leopard wee smells like popcorn. It smells like buttered popcorn. I'm not joking. I promise you, I'm telling you the absolute truth. Leopard urine smells like popcorn. Okay, I'm just going to get us a little bit closer. There we go. Watch as he walks along the road. You can't hear anything. A leopard is a very, very quiet animal. Do you mind if I go ahead, Lex? Thanks. I'm just chatting to one of the other guides because we're both in this sighting, so we have to make space for each other. There he is. Look at him go. Isn't he magnificent? There, he's going to call. Listen. How cool is that? That is what a leopard's roar sounds like. And out here we call it sawing, because it sounds like somebody's sawing a tree. It's such a cool sound. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys got to hear it. Now, Natalia, you want to know why do we keep switching guides? Do you mean between Tristan and myself, or do you mean between me and the guy in front of me? So the reason that I'm playing leapfrog with this car so we're basically taking turns, is because he's got guests and he's been waiting all day for this opportunity for the leopard to get up, and so it's only fair that we actually let him make the most of this situation and let his guests have a turn as well. Hey, my boy, sorry. Hold on. Now, Justin, you want to know, why is the leopard a predator? A leopard is a predator because it hunts other animals. It hunts for things like antelope and like scrub hares. A scrub hare is a type of small rabbit, or it looks like a rabbit at least. Scrub hares, anything like that. So that is why it's called a predator. Oh, I didn't expect him to go there, but he wants to rub his cheek on that tree and then scrape his feet. Now, Anthony, no. Other leopards probably won't come out when they see this leopard, and I'll tell you why. Because they're going to be intimidated by him. That's why he's roaring. Because leopards are solitary and they're territorial. So in other words, they live on their own and they live in their own set place, kind of like your house, except much, much bigger. Oh, he's basically walking under the car. There he goes. There he is, walking along the road. So they won't come out because they're going to be scared of him, because he's telling everyone, this is my land. Don't you come here, this is my land. And justice, yes, leopards can eat fish. They absolutely can eat fish. How cool was that? He gave and told all of the other leopards to stay away, unless it's a lady leopard, in which case, yes, they can come and see him, because he's okay with that. It's just other boys that he doesn't want to see. Okay, I'm going to catch up with him. There he's spraying some more urine. And Justice, sorry, I didn't answer your question properly. Yes, leopards do eat fish. But not often. Most of the time, they'll eat antelope. Eliana, remember how we spoke about the fact that leopards were predators? Well, leopards and cheetah both hunt, just in different ways. Leopards sneak up on their prey and jump out very, very quickly, whereas cheetah will do something different. Cheetah will chase their prey. So cheetah actually will chase down and run after the animals that they're hunting. But they're called predators because they eat other animals. Okay, we're about to lose him, unfortunately, because he's going into a place where we can't necessarily go. Nia, you want to know, why do they live on their own? We don't really know the answer to that. It's just the way that leopards have evolved. It's one of the ways that they like to keep nice and secret and quiet. So they like to live on their own. The only exceptions that you get to that is a female with cubs, and sometimes when the leopards are mating to make those cubs. All right, everybody wave goodbye. Are you all waving goodbye to the leopard? Because that's going to be the last we see of him. Off he goes into the night in search of food and also to patrol his territory. Can any station in the east copy me? Tingana has just crossed south at the little Gowrie signs at the game path just to the west of that. There he goes, there he goes. Can just see him disappearing. Off he disappears. See how well those spots work? Awesome. Alright. Since our leopard has disappeared, it's time for Tristan to do some searching for creatures as it gets dark.
Well, indeed, Jamie, I'm scanning around with my spotlight and I'm trying to see what I can find. I'm looking everywhere for all the nocturnal little critters that could be out and about. And I'm trying to see if I can't find a chameleon. So we'll try and see, we'll have a competition with Jamie. Let's see who can find a chameleon first. So we'll see if Jamie is going to be able to find one before I can. It's very difficult to spot them now as it's getting a little bit colder and we're going towards our winter. It's becoming harder and harder to actually see them. But I'm so glad that you all got to see a leopard. Now there is something here. Oh, it's just disappeared. It was a little scrub hare, but I'm sure I will find another one for you. The scrub hares are very common here, and they're things that Tingana, the male leopard that you saw, would like to eat. He loves scrub hares, so I'm going to try and see if I can find another one. They are very, very common. They look just like a rabbit, and you'll find that they come out at night and onto the roads, so I'm sure I'm going to be able to find another one here somewhere. But the reason why I'm using a light is because the light helps me to see the animal's eyes when it starts to get dark. Now it's getting very dark here, and our eyes can't see very well in the dark, not like the animals can. And so this light helps me to be able to see the reflection of their eyes. And when I see the reflection, then I can shine my light and I can see what the animal is. So that helps quite a bit. Ah, Lily, you want to know what a bush baby is? Well, a bush baby is a primate, so it's part of the monkey family, but it is a very, very small nocturnal monkey, basically, and it has big, big eyes, and it has small body. They're about this big, with a long tail, and big eyes, and very big feet, and they'll then jump from tree to tree, and the reason why they're called a bush baby is because they cry like a baby. So if you've got any siblings that are babies, or when you were a baby, you used to make a big wailing sound, and that's how the bush babies also do it, and so that's why they got the name baby. And the bush part comes because they like to hang around in these thickets where we are now, so this is a really good place to look for them, and you'll just see their big, big eyes shining in the light, and then you see them jumping around the trees. It's amazing to actually see. Now there is another bird here in front, which is another one of our nocturnal birds. So there is a nightjar. You see how camouflaged it is? It's very, very difficult to see this bird when it is not on the roads like this. When they spend their day, they'll spend their day in the trees areas, and they'll try and camouflage as best they can. Now at night they come out to hunt all of the insects that are flying around, and these birds have a very special thing around their beak and they look like little whiskers, much like a catfish or a cat itself. But what it does is it helps this bird be able to detect the prey when it's flying. Because it's dark and it gets pitch black when it's trying to fly around, those just help for it to find the moths and insects that it likes to go after. Now, Miss Gordon, you're wondering with the bush babies, how often do they eat? Well, bush babies will eat all night, every night. They can visit up to 1,000 trees at a time trying to find food. And what they'll actually do is they'll actually farm a tree. Now, when I say they'll farm a tree, I mean that they'll go to a tree at night and then they bite the tree and they chew on it, and then they leave that tree alone and they go away. The next day they come back, and the tree, to defend itself, will exude a gum, a sticky, thick, syrup-like liquid that tries to seal that wound, and that is what the bush baby is after. It likes those sticky liquids, and it will then come and start to feed off them. So very, very clever. It will also go after insects as well, so in between the trees you'll find that they'll grab a few moths and other things as well. Now I'm going to stop shining my light on this poor bird because I don't want to blind it any further, so we're going to slowly roll forward without our lights and hope that it will then fly off without us having to cause it too much of a problem. Now these birds, you'll see, sometimes will just fly away a little bit and then they'll land again on the road once we're gone. Now you've got to kind of be careful with them because sometimes they don't move very much. They're a bit nervous to fly off the road. Now there we go, it just flew off to the side. No, it's still there in front. Come on. There we go. No. So our bird doesn't want to leave us alone. It wants to make friends with us. But we're going to try and see if I can't just... There we go. It's now taken off and gone away. Now that particular one was called a fiery-necked nightjar because of the sort of color on its neck. Now we are going to head through a bit of a bad signal area. So if it does break up a bit, I do apologize. It is a little bit of a dip in front here where it gets a bit bad. Mia, you're wondering why they come out at night. Now, I suppose you're talking about both the bush baby and the Oh, I've forgotten the name of it now. Why have I forgotten the name? The Nightjar. Now, the reason why they come out at night is because during the day there's a lot more predators. So there's things like goshawks and hawks and falcons that will hunt all of those, as well as things like snakes and leopard and lion and cheetah and wild dogs and hyenas and jackals and all these predators. And so at night it's much easier for them to come out when it's darker. They can hide away a lot easier and they can feed without being too much of a threat coming out. So that's why they come out at night more than they're active during the day. Also, their eyes are built to be out at night. You'll find bush babies have big eyes. They can allow a lot of light into their eye to see very well at night. So they have more of an advantage at night when they're moving around than they do in the day. Now, like I say, I'm going to apologize because we are going to lose signal shortly, so it's going to be a little bit of static. Now, our chameleon test carries on. Jamie's looking for hers, I'm looking for mine. I wonder who's going to spot theirs first.
I hear there is a competition afoot this evening between Tristan and myself. We're going to be racing to see which of us, if either of us, can find a chameleon. Oh, I'm just going to turn the lights off so that this bird doesn't feel too dazzled and it can fly away. So the way to spot chameleons is to use one of these, which is a spotlight. And chameleons actually show up far more clearly at night than during the day. They almost shine out of the trees, and that's what we're looking for. So we've had lots of practice, Tristan and I, at searching for chameleons, and it's quite warm tonight, which means we've got a good chance of finding one. So will you all help me look? Maybe you can see if you can spot a chameleon shining out of the darkness. But while we search for chameleons, what we're actually doing is we're going to go and see whether or not the hyenas are home. So you've met the leopard a little bit earlier. His name is Tingana, and he's wandered off. Now I'm going to go and take you to see one of my favorite predators, which is the spotted hyena. And everybody thinks that spotted hyenas are such horrible animals, but actually they're not. Are you still looking? Are you still searching for chameleons? I hope so. We've got to beat Tristan, okay? We've got to beat Tristan. That's important. So with all of you helping me, then we should win. If we find a chameleon. But yes, everybody thinks that hyenas are horrible creatures, so we've got to go off in search of them, and I'm going to teach you a little bit more about them so that maybe you won't find them horrible or scary, but actually you'll find them really, really interesting. I think that was just a leaf that I saw, but let me go back and check just in case it was a chameleon. Nope, it was a leaf. Welcome to the kids watching at Garrisonville Elementary. We get lots of different types of plants, so all of the kids are wondering, what types of plants do we see? Out here, it's a really nice balance between grass and trees. So it's not like it's a forest, but it's not an open grassland either. And so we see different types of trees, like things called bush willows. And normally I'd stop and show you, but I'm actually in a little bit of a hurry because I want to get to those hyenas just in case they are home. So I'm not going to stop unless I see a chameleon or another animal. But we get bush willow trees, which are very common types of trees. We get some endangered trees as well. We get a type of tree called a marula tree, which produces very yummy fruit, and we get different types of grasses. We also get different types of flowers. We sometimes get reeds in certain places where there's lots of water. So it would be almost impossible for me to name all of the different plant species for you because there are so many. Whoopsie. So what I'm doing is I'm turning out my lights because a very big animal just walked almost in front of me. Okay, can you almost see him there in the darkness? I'm going to let him walk past. There we go. Now we're watching in infrared, which is a special type of lighting technique that makes it easier to see animals. Now, this is a type of antelope called a wildebeest. And a wildebeest is a daytime animal, not a nighttime animal like that leopard, which means I don't want to shine a light on him because it will actually be very, very uncomfortable for him. And those of you who with very sharp eyes might have seen the bird that just flew past at the bottom of the screen. Okay, there goes our wildebeest. He's going to continue grazing, and we are going to carry on towards the hyenas. You might also have heard them being called gnus. So that is a gnu. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to go back, Ferg. Can you switch back to infrared and go back onto the wildebeest? He's rolling. He's having fun. Look at that. He's now lying down, and a moment ago, he actually rolled over onto his back. Let's see if he'll do it again. Not quite onto his back, but he rolled over onto his side. And that's what wildebeest do. There you go, look. Hey, he's having so much fun. And one of the reasons that he does that is to scratch all kinds of itches on his skin and just to make himself a nice, comfortable spot to sleep in. And it also helps to put his scent onto the ground. So he's got lots of glands around his face and around his body, or between his feet. And he's using that to mark the ground. And then he's going to go to sleep there for a little bit. Okay, he's stopped rolling. Let's carry on to those hyenas. I really hope they're home. I'll be so sad if they're not. And welcome to Mrs. Russell. Mrs. Russell, you want to know what the average temperature is at night. To be completely honest with you, around about this time of year, it doesn't get that cold, even though it's winter. We think it's cold, but we're wrong. The lowest it gets is at the moment, around about 13 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, what's that? That's about 50-odd degrees, 13 centigrade, which is about 50-odd Fahrenheit. At night in summer, it stays really warm, and on average in summer it will probably only go around about to the mid-70s in Fahrenheit, so about 25 degrees centigrade. Sometimes it stays up at 35 degrees centigrade and we all have to sleep under wet towels. But in winter, the lowest it's going to get is probably about 3 or 4 centigrade. Good question from Shamir, who wants to know why is the wildebeest out at night if he's a daytime animal? Because daytime animals don't have a home or a stable or anything to go into. This is where they live. This is their home and this is where they sleep. So he's still awake because the sun's only just gone down, but he will be planning on resting for a while. He won't move very far because nighttime is when the big predators come out, and he doesn't want to get caught by a big predator. So he will find a nice comfortable place like the one that he was in, and he'll lie down there, but he'll always be careful and looking and listening. So they don't sleep that well because they have to make sure that there's no predators sneaking up on them. So that's why he's out at night. It's just because he's about to go to bed and he doesn't have anywhere else to go. Noah, the wildebeest eats grass. So you saw the leopard earlier. The leopard eats meat and is a predator. The wildebeest eats grass, and that makes him a grazer and a herbivore. So they only eat grass. They might nibble the odd leaf every now and again, but really they only eat grass. And they either live on their own, like that boy, or sometimes you'll find them together in a massive group of lots of individuals. So in a big herd. Okay, so now I want you all to be quite quiet, okay? Put your fingers to your lips. I'm hoping that we're going to see something very special. I don't know if they're home. They might still be sleeping. But the reason I'm saying we've got to be very quiet is because where I'm taking you is the home of the spotted hyena. And inside this home, they actually have babies. Now, because these babies are so young, I'm just checking carefully with my spotlight to make sure I don't scare them. Because these babies are so young, we want to make sure we're very, very quiet when we go towards the den. Oh dear, I got very excited, but I think... No, here we go. Can you point the infrared there? Look here, it's a young spotted hyena. Keep your movements very slow, Fergus. It's one of the skittish cubs. Hello. See? There's a young spotted hyena. How cool is that? What an awesome surprise. Now you can see it's moved off a little bit. I'm not going to stay. Oh, here it comes. Hello. Hi. There we go. Look, see? How curious it is. It wants to know what we are and what we're doing. Look at that. So a hyena is not a dog and it's not a cat. It's an animal that is completely distinct on its own. It's okay, little one. There we go. Here comes a younger one. Here comes the baby. Hello. Yes, you know us. You're comfortable with us, hey? Here he goes. He's coming right up to the car. Coming to investigate and say hello. Hello. Haven't seen you in a while. And then, what you going to do? You're going to come and sniff my tires? Oh, that's very naughty. It's okay. It's all right. You can come. Got a bit of a fright because I moved quite quickly. How cool is this? Hey, little ones. Oh, having a scratch. See how close they are? And that's because hyena are very intelligent animals, which means that they do... Look, these two want to play. And that means that they want to investigate and they want to learn. Ah, this is very special. What did you find? Found something that it's taking back to the den. And there goes the older hyena cub. Hey, it's all right. Now I'm taking this opportunity to sit with them because that one older hyena hasn't seen people before. Or not often in its life. And usually the most comfortable time for hyenas is around about night time. They feel much more comfortable at night than during the day. And the nice thing is the younger one has grown up with vehicles moving around it, so it's actually quite relaxed. And it's teaching the other cub to be relaxed as well. Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity though to leave them be. Unfortunately, we don't stay long at a hyena den without the mother. Oh, hold on. I can't start the vehicle now. This hyena is too close. Now, Diamond Springs, you want to know how old the hyena cubs are. The youngest one must be about 4 months old now. So around about 4 months. The older one, I'm not too sure. That older hyena cub is a complete mystery to us. And I'm not sure how old it is. I'm really not sure. We don't know where it came from. We don't know where it's been hiding. And typically we do know when our hyena cubs are born. But that one, to me, with my eye, looks to be about 6 months old. Not that much older than that smaller cub. But it's hard to tell in the dark. But that would be my guess. Okay. That little cub's a bit skittish, but it's moved off now. And because mommy's not here, we don't want to encourage the babies to come too far out and get into trouble, because it's quite dangerous out here without Mum. So we're going to leave them, and we're going to go off in search of other things. But while we do that, Tristan's already had a head start with his search for the chameleon.
Well, I do, Jamie, but I'm not having any luck. It seems Jamie has all the luck tonight. She's had a leopard and she's got the hyenas, so she's really stepping it up, and I'm going to have to get my eyes out and start really looking so that I can redeem myself, because Jamie is definitely showing that girls have all the power tonight, that's for sure. Now, Seb, we've got to even the score here somehow, so we've got to find something in order to settle this. Now, there's our scrub here from earlier. Now, it's not as exciting as a hyena or a leopard, but it is over there, and it's just hopping about. And these guys come out at night, like I was saying earlier, and they move around looking for food. And the reason why they're out at night is much like the bush babies and the nightjars, is that there's less predators at night, and it means that they can be more out in the open where the food is that they like than they would be during the day. Now, it's not a rabbit, and there's a difference between rabbits and hares. Rabbits are animals that have shorter ears, and they are active during the day, whereas hares, much longer ears, and are active at night. And when they have their babies are able to move around straight away, whereas a rabbit has to have a burrow where it'll have its babies, and its babies have to be looked after by its parents, much like we do, for long periods of time before they can actually then move around on their own. But isn't it cute? So it's got the most beautiful big eyes to help see at night, and those long ears to be able to hear really, really well. Now, our scrub here is probably going to go into the long grass, and I don't want to shine the light on it for too long, because the light does blind them, and we don't want them to get blinded and have to then try and evade a leopard. But you can see how dark it is when we take the light away, and why it's sometimes a little bit tough at night to find the animals, because without the light hitting them, then you can't see them, whereas during the day you'll be able to spot them from further away. Now, I'm coming past a whole bunch of water holes as well, like I was saying, because now's the time where you'll find some of the animals drinking. So I've been checking those, but with no luck so far, and hopefully we'll get spoiled with something now. We've got to scan all of these trees if we're looking for chameleons. Chameleons blend in very, very well, but if you know the trick and you know how to do it, then you can spot them relatively easily if they are near the road. Sometimes they're not near the road at all, and it becomes quite difficult to see them, but we'll see. Maybe, just maybe, there'll be one lurking somewhere in these thickets. So I'm checking. Also, this is a great place for owls. We know that owls like it in here, so I'm looking for those too inside all of this. Unfortunately, our zebras seem to have all evaded us today, but maybe Jamie will get lucky when she's moving around where she is and might find a zebra somewhere her side. They've been a little bit shy this evening. But still no sign of any chameleons. I would have thought maybe we would have found one here. This is the stuff that they like to be in. You see how thick and dense it is? So it's a perfect place for a chameleon to camouflage and hide in amongst the leaves. And as I was saying earlier, that the chameleons do like to sort of go into a state of what's called estivation, which means that when it gets cold here, it gets very dry, and it means that there's not really much food for the chameleons. So they now start to find areas where it's very, very thick, or holes in the ground where they can then spend the winter. And it's almost like a bear when it hibernates. A bear hibernates because it gets very cold in the snow, whereas our chameleons estivate because there's no food and it gets very dry. There's no rain or anything like that to provide food for them. So that's why it's becoming harder and harder to find them now as we go into our winter months. But still searching, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to use your eyes, and you've got to be able to look and search everywhere to try and find something. I wonder if we can't find a giraffe. Now, I'm trying to see quickly before we up, because it's almost that time where we're going to have to say goodbye. I'm going to just check one more area to see if I can't find, to see see if I can't find something for you. So I'm just checking in front here. But I don't see anything so far. There's no eyes reflecting back at me. But unfortunately not. And this is what happens in the bush, and this is why safari is addictive, because some days you get lots of things and other days it's a little bit harder and it's tough to find some animals, and it makes you want to go out the next day and try and find more. Now, so tomorrow morning we'll definitely be trying to see if I can't find some more things, but I think this evening, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and so I hope that all of you have really enjoyed being with us this afternoon. I hope you learned some things and you love to see the leopard and the hyenas from myself and Sebastian and Jamie. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us, and for all of our regular viewers, thank you for joining us. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.